Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayato, and the topic for today's discussion is getting an organization off of the ground. So, as a teacher and as a coach, just someone that's been around um, academic world for over 15 years, I have done this exact thing many times, whether that be starting an athletic program from the ground up or starting a student organization from the ground up. And I just wanted to share some of my experiences for teachers out there that may be interested in starting a student organization, or you may be taking over a student organization and wonder what are some important things to think about as you become a new leader of this organization. So, first and foremost, I would say that you need to be on the same page as your administration. I've seen this happen before, and not necessarily just in my organizations, but just with other organizations that I have seen at the different schools that I've worked at. If the goal of your organization doesn't necessarily align with what the school administration is looking to do, or district administration as well, you're going to find yourself having a really challenging time moving forward with this specific organization. So I think it's important that whenever you are considering starting an organization, go and talk to administrators at the school. Let them know first before you just say, hey, here's an application to start a student organization. And one of the reasons that might also be important is because there may already be an organization at your school that does something very similar. This actually happened a couple of years ago where I saw there were two student organizations that they did a lot that overlapped, and I personally think it drew away from both organizations because I didn't really know much about either organization, because I felt like if they would have put their interests together, if they would have combined forces, they could have done a lot more. They would have had more manpower. They would have had the ability to get the word out more. And I feel like that probably goes back to there wasn't a lot of communication when those organizations were formed, and they ended up just kind of stepping on each other's toes, and I don't think it really worked out for either one of those. Matter of fact, I don't even know if either one of those organizations still exist. So it's important to talk to administration, let them know what you want to do, or if you are doing this on behalf of students that have come to you and have said, coach, or Mr. or Miss, whomever, we want to start this organization. Once again, you go to the administration and they can say, well, we already kind of have something that fits this mold. But if not, then you can go ahead and move forward. You can let them know what you want to do, and they can let you know if there's any type of restrictions that you might have. So that would be the first and foremost thing. The next thing is making sure you and your students are all on the same page. So students come and go, right? So what you have in terms of what you do with your organization one year may slightly change with the students that come in the next year. So what you have to do is you have to decide, do we keep what we do in this organization the same year over year? Or do we slightly change with what this new group of students is looking to accomplish within that organization? And I think you need to be upfront about that, because if you're not, it could affect the personal enjoyment of the students in that organization, which could reflect poorly on the organization, and maybe that hurts recruitment efforts in the future. So always make sure you are in you're in an understanding with the students in the organization, what the goals are and what they hope to get out of it, in addition to what you are hoping to provide. So the next, which is really important for those extracurricular activities that happen outside of school, is going to be being on the same page with the parents. Okay, so if you are starting a new athletic program, And I've seen this happen several times at schools that I've been at recently. One started a powerlifting program. One is currently trying to get a flag football program off the ground. I personally helped start a cross-country program at a school that didn't have it prior. So I've seen this play out. If you are not on the same page as the parents, you're going to struggle to get momentum. So just as an example, when I was starting my cross-country program, I was bringing in a lot of athletes from other sports, that had participated in other sports, that didn't have a frame of reference for what I wanted to do in terms of, how long I wanted to practice, what competitions were like, things like that. If you don't explain that to the parents, they're not going to know. So you could find yourself in a situation where you're frustrated because you're looking for more support from the parents, but they don't know. They don't know what the expectations are. Now, if you come out and say, you need to be at every single practice or you don't get to compete in that next competition, well, you have to explicitly say that because a parent's not going to know. And so, one thing that happens a lot, especially with high school kids, is like an orthodontist appointment. You'll have kids that'll miss practice. And if you had this hard and fast rule, if you miss practice, you can't compete. Well, what do you do in that situation? You need to have the lines of communication with the parents open, and you need to make sure that your expectations are communicated, because otherwise all you're going to do is get yourself in a position where you're unhappy or they become unhappy because there is not a lot of communication. And I mean, I've seen this personally just in recent years with other programs. I mean, parent will be talking to me, I don't know what goes on in this program because the coach doesn't tell us anything. Well, that I can assure you from a parent standpoint is going to be very frustrating, and it's not going to mean long-term success for the organization that you're trying to set up. And just a few other things that are important to recognize. You need to know your financial limitations for the organization. If you are planning to do a big event and the school says, well, we can give you $500 to fund your organization for this year, but it's going to cost you $2,000, well, then you need to figure out how you're going to fundraise. And I know that some schools have limitations on how you can fundraise. So you can't just go out and do a car wash. You may only be able to do certain things. And then some schools may, for instance, they may not want you to ask for direct donations because maybe they have other drives that they're trying to do where they're already asking for direct donations, and they don't want your organization to compete with what the school's doing. So these are all important things to understand. But really, if you talk to administration, some of those issues can get sorted out, from the very beginning. So also make sure that you explain to the students, what your expectations are in terms of how long your organization is intending to last. If it's going to be an organization just for that 1 year, well, great. You can have fun in that 1 year, but if it's going to be the type of organization that's going to renew every single year moving forward, you probably need to end that school year with planning leadership for the team for the following year. So that way there's kind of always some type of connective tissue between school years. If you wait until the fall, you may have some issues with that because you kind of have to build momentum again. You have to track down those students, and that could be a problem for continuity as well. So this is not an exhaustive list. I'm sure there's many things that I missed, but if you are considering becoming a new coach or a new moderator, hopefully this helps you understand some of those things that you need to think about. And if there's anything else that you can think about question-wise, leave a comment, leave the question down below, because I have done this several times, so I do have some experience getting organizations off the ground, and hopefully I can help you. So thank you for taking time to watch this video. Have a great day.